All right, we're back again with Ontology, the study of being. The second video, I'm going through the list of all philosophers that have studied ontology, the study of being, the study of metaphysics, study of existence. So again, my first book was The Metaphysics of Being. My third book was The Ontology Dialogue. So this is obviously something I'm very interested in. And a lot of these guys I've never heard of, so it's a learning experience as I'm going through the video. Okay, we are on to Hans-Georg Gadamer, and we'll see if I can find him. Actually, I think I missed people, but I'll come back. He was born in 1900, died in 2002, was a German philosopher of continental tradition. Best known for his magnus opus, Truth and Method. His main interests were metaphysics, epistemology, and language. He elaborated on the concept of philosophical hermeneutics, which Heidegger initiated but never dealt with at length. Gadamer's goal was to uncover the nature of human understanding. He argued that truth and method were at odds with one another. He was critical of two approaches to the human sciences. On the one hand, he was critical of modern approaches to humanities that modeled themselves on the natural sciences. On the other hand, he took issue with the traditional German approach to the humanities, represented, for instance, by two guys which believed that correctly interpreting a text meant recovering the original intention of the author who wrote it. So that was him. Let's see. I skipped Rene Descartes. I'm going to get back to him here. He was born in 1596 and died in 1650. Again, he said, I think, therefore I am. Every time I think that thought, I confirm my own existence, and also went through dualism and the mind-body problem. Believed that the mind was something that does not have extension and was eternal and was equivalent to the soul, and that was different from the body, which was divisible, would die, was not eternal. And the whole question always arose, and to this day does, how does a mind which does not have any extension, which is a nothing, affect a something such as matter? So that's that mind-body problem that still persists today. Okay, so that was that. We're on to Al-Ghazali. He was born in 1058 and died in 1111. He was Persian and believed in Muslim theology, sometimes referred to as the single most influential Muslim after the Islamic prophet Muhammad. Others cited his movement from science to faith as a detriment to Islamic scientific progress. Besides his work that successfully changed the course of Islamic philosophy, the early Islamic Neoplatonism developed on the grounds of Hellenistic philosophy. Let's see, his main interests were Sufism, theology, philosophy, logic. So that is Al-Ghazali. Going on, Nikolai Hartmann, born in 1882 in Russia, died in 1950. talked about levels of reality, the inorganic level, the organic level, the psychical, emotional level, and the intellectual level. The law of recurrence. Lower categories recur in the higher levels as a sub-aspect of higher categories, but never vice versa. The law of modification. Categorical elements modifying their recurrence in the higher levels. They are shaped by the characteristics of the higher levels. Law of the novum. The higher category is composed of a diversity of lower elements. And then law of distance between levels. Since the different levels do not develop continuously, but in leaps, they can be clearly distinguished. There's a quote: "The tragedy of man is that of somebody who is starving and sitting by a richly laden table, but does not reach out with his hand because he cannot see what is right in front of him. For the real world has inexhaustible splendor. The real life is full of meaning and abundance. Where we grasp it, it is full of miracles and glory." So that was Nikolai Hartmann, Russian. So he sounds pretty good. Going on to George Hegel. Let's see. He was born in 1770, died in 1831. He was an idealist. Main interest: logic, aesthetics, religion, philosophy of history, metaphysics, epistemology, and political philosophy. Hegel's thinking can be understood as a constructive development within the broad tradition that includes Plato and Kant. To this list, one could add Proclus, Meister Eckhart, Leibniz, Plotinus, Rousseau, and Jacob Boehme. With all these thinkers share which distinguishes them from materialists like Epicurus and Stoics and Thomas Hobbes, and from empiricists like David Hume, is that they regard freedom or self-determination both as real as having important ontological implications for soul or mind or divinity. This focus on freedom is what generates Plato's notion in the Phaedo, Republic, and Timaeus of the soul as having a higher or fuller kind of reality than inanimate objects possess. While Aristotle criticizes Plato's forms, he preserves Plato's cornerstone of the ontological implications for self-determination, ethical reasoning, the soul's pinnacle in the hierarchy of nature, the order of the cosmos, and an assumption with reasoned arguments for a prime mover. Kant imports Plato's high esteem of individual sovereignty to his considerations of moral and noumenal freedom, as well as to God. All three find common ground on the unique position of humans in the scheme of things known by the discussed categorical differences from animals and inanimate objects. So that was George Hegel. Let's see. On to Martin Heidegger. Born in 1889, died in 1976. German philosopher known for existentialism and explorations of the question of being. Heidegger maintained that philosophy in the process of philosophizing had lost sight of the being it sought, finding ourselves already fallen in a world of presuppositions. We lose touch with what being was before the truth became muddled. One way of questioning defines our nature. He advocated a return to the practical being in the world, allowing it to reveal or unconceal itself as a concealment. His main interests, again, were ontology, metaphysics, art, Greek philosophy, technology, language, poetry, and thinking. Being and Time is Heidegger's first academic book. He had been under pressure to publish in order to qualify for Husserl's chair at University of Freiburg, and the success of his work ensued his appointment to the post. It investigates the question of being by asking about the being for whom being is a question. Heidegger names this being Dasein, and the book pursues its investigation through themes such as mortality, care, anxiety, temporality, and historicity. It was Heidegger's original intention to write a second half of the book, consisting of a history of philosophy, that is, the transformation of philosophy, by retracing its history, but he never completed the project. So that was Martin Heidegger. So at this point I'm going to stop, and we'll come back and continue on.